Welcome to the channel, I'm Saucebreaker. Die in a Dungeon is a turn-based roguelike game to where you attack with dice. With these dice, they have certain actions and face numbers that you have to plan when you attack, block, or heal. You play as a frog in both the demo and the prequel Origins. While you go through room to room, unliving bugs and foes, you'll be getting some new dice on the way that will have a unique effect in the game. So in this video, I will be ranking the different types of dice you can get while in the dungeon. This list will be based on how likely I am to pick them over another. So of course, if your favorite is low on this list, don't take it personally, as this is my list, and your choice could be just as valid as mine. With all that being said, let's get into the list. If you're like me, when you first saw the terrain dice, you thought it was going to be a must grab. A dice that leaves a boost on the board after the next turn sounds like a great dice, since you could plan the boost dice to get even more mileage from that slot. However, that's only if you're able to plan the next dice you're going to get in the next turn. Since you can never see what the next dice rolls you're going to get or what type of dice you're going to get next, you have to take your chances and place the terrain dice in a slot where you think most likely you have a boost or where you're going to place another dice in. Another thing you have to consider is that if the terrain dice number is less than 1, don't expect the boost to still be there for long. Still pretty good dice though. D tier. The Prisma die basically works like a Prisma triangle, so it reflects the effect placed on it from another point with its number as an addition. Now, if you have it work with a normal boost dice, it could potentially make it so that the affected area is like an 8+ boost, which is insane. However, the dice has a multiplier tends to be really weird areas to send their buffs to, so it might be hard to kind of set this thing up, unless you're just really lucky. It's good, but you really should have one of these dice since your whole game plan isn't going to be a bunch of these. Also, if you're able to make this hollow, so that way it doesn't waste any energy, that way you can have as much opportunity to plan this. But if you do have a game plan to set this up, this is a pretty good dice. However, for most people, this is like D tier. Mirror, mirror on the die, is it true that my viewers should like and subscribe if they're liking the video? Of course, I thought so too. Do it! The mirror die, as the name implies, mirrors the die on the opposite side of the board and copying its value. So what does that mean? When you have an attack die on the other side of the board with a value of 2, the mirror die will also have an attack value of 2. However, if you were to buff the original attack die with a boost, the mirror die will also increase its value to the same as the attack die now. So if it went to 2 to 4, the mirror dice will have a value of 4. You also like it when I say die as well. Though, remember when I said it only mirrors the die on the other far end of the board? That's what I meant, as that's the only time the mirror die ever works. The mirror die only comes into a value of 6, or nothing. So, if the value is 0, it will be a blank die, and pretty much do nothing. Only when it has a value of 6, it can mirror, but sometimes the boost or the board can't let that happen. Of course, both sides are going to be open 9 times out of 10, but it takes some skill to really go far with it. But when you can, oh boy, you can go far with it. It's good to have. C tier. Here, my sonny, eat this apple. I swear it's not poisoned. The poison die is a bit of an interesting one. It places a damage over time on an enemy that you're targeting, and it will damage them at the end of the turn. So after everyone has done their actions, that's when the die will take effect. The damage, and from what I was able to tell, the duration of the poison are both based on the value of the die. So if your poison is 3, you can expect at the end of 3 turns, they will be taking 3 damage. It's a bit weird to see, but it's a great dot to place on enemies, especially some bosses, and if they put a block at the end of the turn because it can be weakened. Though, for the purpose of taking an enemy out, you're better off using an attack die. C tier. Keep this one in your pocket. The Thorn die applies a payback to the player. Although it doesn't negate damage, it does reflect the exact damage back to the enemy as well. So if the enemy hits you for 3 damage, the enemy will also take 3 damage as well. The value of the Thorn die is its duration, and the stack will not go down per enemy, but goes down per turn. So you can be happy knowing that some enemies are going down with you. With a defensive build, this die is a hard carry, to the point that if you can just block everything, the monsters are unaliving themselves for you. However, you do need to have the right relics and dice to get as much mileage, but even using it here and there, it can work wonders. A tier for sure. The heal die, as the name implies, is a die that heals you after you use it. A pretty basic die to understand, but I don't think this die is as necessary as you think. Because of how relics can play into the game, you can have a lot of passive healing if you play your hand right. As for the comfy couch, it lets you get 1 HP at the end of your turn if you have any remaining shield left. While yes, it's 1 point of HP, it isn't a lot compared to what you can get with a die. If you have a defensive build though, you can pretty much heal forever though. While it is a must have, don't take all the heal die that you can find. A tier. I need a boost. Oh, thank goodness I got this die with me. Come on baby, give me a 20. Wait, what the hell? The boost die amplifies the dice around it so it becomes more powerful based on the value of the boost die. So if the value is 1, every dice around it is getting a boost of 1 to their value. So on and so forth. Though the higher the boost die value is, the more restrictive the open spots to get a boost become over time. Like the 1 value, which has a maximum of 4 spaces it can surround itself to boost. Meanwhile, the 3 value die only has about 2 spaces that it can amplify, and those 2 spaces are really far from the board. So with all that in mind, it's clear that the boost die is going into S tier. If you can get all your boost die with the hollow effect, dude, you can do some crazy stuff in the game. The block die adds a shield to your frog at the start of the turn. This shield will block the incoming damage you'll be getting, and the amount of shield is based on the value of the block die. Normally all your shield is reset at the start of the next turn, but if you can get your hands on a certain relic, you can keep the shield that you have left over from the last turn, since it's the backbone for defense. And finally, we come to the attack die, which is going in S tier. What more is needed to be said? Like, come on now. You use this die to attack and take down enemies. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I think that's a must. So that's my list for the dice types in die in a dungeon. As always, at the end, here is the tier list in full, and remember that this is all my opinion. So, if you think the attack die doesn't belong in S tier, that's okay, as I already have a missile targeting your house as we speak. Remember to join me in the dungeon and subscribe to the channel and like the video, and until then, I'll see ya next time.